you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, the Harley Sings That Makes Official. Welcome to the big show. As always, the Chris Voss Show has been around for 16 years, 28 episodes. We've been bringing you the most amazing minds, the most amazing stories, the most amazing journeys through life, and just like we call it, the Netflix of podcasting. 2,800 episodes in 16 years. Going on 17. We'll be 17 in August, so I think we're halfway there. Anyway, guys, we have an amazing young man on the show, but in the meantime, we need to go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss1 on the TikTok, and all those crazy places on the internet. Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind. Today, we have a young gentleman on the show. His book is titled, How's My Driving? Why Every Other Driver Doesn't Seem to Have a Clue. And evidently, Steve and I live in the same neighborhood and drive on the same freeways because I'm seeing the same darn thing. Steve Dziadik joins us in the show today. We're going to be talking about his book, his insights, and why he's written a book about driving. Probably the book we've all wanted to have written for some of the things we've seen on the road. Welcome to the show, Steve. How you doing?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And you've been driving automobiles since a very young age. You had 2 life-threatening accidents that you and your family were fortunate enough to survive, and you retired from the commercial nuclear electrical generation industry where you spent several years involved with the sale of property and casualty insurance. So, and his life experiences, unique perspective on driving safety have created a combination of him that makes him both instructional and interesting. Welcome to the show, Steve, again. How are you, sir? Give us your .coms. Where do you want people to find you on the interwebs?
It's going to be stevedziadik.com.
And you even do free seminars to many local high schools to more than 10,000 students. So that's good. You're out there sharing the message.
Yes, sir.
So give us a 30,000 overview. What's in your book?
Okay. The book is written from a perspective of, when you say 30,000 feet, it's basically, it has to do with driving. And as you already alluded to, I've been involved in 2 nearly life-ending crashes. My wife lost a child in one of them.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and that was pretty traumatic. And then I had another one, which is a head-on collision about 9 years later. The 30,000-foot view is I'm trying to figure out a way to get that experience into other people without them having to actually experience it.
Ah, yeah, that's completely sad that happened to your wife. And I recently had a friend who he was sitting in traffic and was rear-ended, like full speed. Evidently, someone didn't brake and flipped his car 4 times and done massive destruction to his body. They were basically telling him, hey, look, there's one thing you need to do in the hospital. Just keep breathing. Just breathe. We need you to just keep breathing. And that's the state he was in. And now, it's taken a while for him to rehabilitate. And I'm not sure if he's walking yet. But yeah, it's pretty crazy out there. So was that probably the motivation that prompted this book?
It's twofold. One, I spent some time working for insurance companies. And one of the things that we found out was that there was a study that was done by U.S. News around the circa 1990s. It was a 10-year study. And that 10-year study followed teenagers. And over those 10 years, it amounted to 60,600 students dying in those 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty traumatic. So that averages out to about 6,060 per year. When I found out about that, I can't imagine losing, we lost an unborn child. I cannot imagine losing a child we've raised from birth.
Yeah.
It would boggle the mind. And so what I wanted to do was find a way to get to people beforehand and talk to them, help them understand that it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be this way. And so when did you start down this road? When did you write the book? And when did you start these trainings where you're training people and trying to get them, I guess, is the intent to be more mindful driving on the road?
I started writing the book in 2010. And it was the first one I'd ever written, so I wasn't very proficient at it. And so I went through several iterations of trying to get it right and get the message the way I wanted it to be heard. I spent some time in putting together a seminar. And then the church that I was going to at the time, I asked them if they would be guinea pigs for me and let me train the kids that are in that church. And the idea being that they could give me their individual feedback, colors of the way I was showing stuff, and just a whole litany of things that they could help me with. It did help, but as time went by, I found that I had to do something more, and I took the seminars out into the real world. And you've already talked to that the student, I'm just having a brain thing right now.
Oh, okay. So you helped the students, and I imagine, did this start right after the accidents where you started focusing on trying to help people be better drivers, or how did it come about? How did this evolve where you suddenly became a consultant sort of teaching person for this?
Like you said, we had, I'm so sorry. My head is on upside down. I started teaching students knowing that they don't know what they don't know. Mm-hmm. And the idea being that if they were to be helped along, that they might become better drivers. The net result of that is I wound up forming my own driving school.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I had a driving school for about 13 years. And in that driving school, I got the opportunity to do one-on-one instruction inside the car, a dual braking system in the car, so that in case they started to do something that I didn't find fun, then I could stop it. Yeah, and what that was an amazing experience for me, because what it did is it helped me to get to them where we could sit in a parking lot and talk about what we were going to do, and then go in the parking lot and do it, and then finally work them from their fears. Many times were justified, and many times they weren't justified, because, like I said before, they didn't know what they didn't know.
Yeah.
So it turned out to be a lot of fun. Everybody thought I was crazy, but having a break on my side made me a lot braver.
And you've been in 2 car accidents, and I would imagine that you would have some natural reaction to danger in a car because you know what the results are. So sometimes you get kind of an auto fight or flight response, right? So that's pretty brave of you after 2 massive accidents to decide you want to go hang out with people in a car again.
Yeah, but again, I didn't want them to experience what I experienced.
That's true. And it's so good to give back. And did you start this as a business per se, or is this all done by charity work?
Yes, no, I did it. The school was where I actually got it licensed by the state of Florida. And for 13 years or thereabouts, what we did is we trained thousands of students. And I think part of the problem with that was that I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Let's see if we can fill it in. So you're helping these students and you're writing the book. What are some of the key principles in the book that you have in there to try and espouse to people? And imagine your story is important as well. An example of what, how to be more careful on the road. What are some key principles maybe from your book, or what do you teach in your course teachings that you try and espouse to people?
What I taught was I came up with a defensive driving recipe. And the idea being that if I could give something that's reasonably easy for people to facilitate in their daily habits, that maybe they'd be able to use it more all the time, as a matter of fact. Mm-hmm. And I talked a lot with parents because I wanted to get their input into it. And the defensive driving recipe is basically it's 6 words long. They're the first word in 6 sentences. And here's what they are: search, identify, predict, decide, execute, and repeat.
No.
And what that very simply does is, one, it closes out any other thing that shouldn't be in the car. There's no place for phones or eating or parties or whatever. But what it does is it gives them the opportunity to understand that they only have a certain number of things that they have to do, and they'll always get back to the same place they started, and that they'll be safe as a result of it. I pointed out to the fact that it's also something that you could use walking around your house. Have you ever walked into your coffee table?
Yeah, and you poke the end of it?
Yep, hurt your knees or shins, right? If you use this search, identify, predict, decide, execute, repeat, then what you'll find out is that you're more aware of where the coffee table is, and it doesn't so likely get you. But basically what it says is search. The idea of searching is that you open your eyes and you take a picture of the world as you see it at that moment. Once you've done that, then you identify the things in that picture that could be a problem to you or you to them. Once you've done that, then you predict what those items are going to do. And this is where experience comes into the measure, especially for kids, because the prediction part of it is very difficult for them because they don't have a lot of skill. They haven't a lot of experiences. But as they go through life, they do this more and more. They get more and more better at being able to predict what somebody else is going to do. Then you decide what you're going to do. Then you execute your plan. And then the thing that makes it work is you repeat the process. And as I said before, there's no phones in there. There's no parties. There's no food. There's no book. I've seen people reading books while they're driving. It's just mind-numbing when you.
Isn't it crazy?
It just. I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with people. Well, the reality is that first off, nobody thinks it's going to happen to them.
Yeah,
that's the bottom line. Because if they thought it was going to happen to them, they wouldn't go out on the road. And after it happened to me, I seriously, thought about maybe not going out on the road, but that didn't work with my working environment. So what I did is I used that as a way to develop my own skills set better. And I'm sorry, I'm not doing very good here.
You're doing fine. Not everyone's, has a smooth run. In fact, you should see some of my podcasts. So I think we're getting a good idea of how this works. And I imagine your stories of your 2 accidents kind of help scare some of these younger students stiff to, as they're learning the trade of driving a car, they can learn, there's downsides, it can happen to you, like you say.
And when it does, you don't get a do-over. That's one of the biggest thing that I teach them. I say, you have to do it right the first time, and there's consequences if you don't. And you're going to have to live with those consequences forever.
Exactly.
And if that means a broken back and you get to be in a wheelchair for the rest of your life, then so be it. That's what's going to happen.
Or worse, you do something to someone else that you're going to have to live with regret from, and possible financial or criminal penalties.
Exactly.
My friend is a big attorney in California. He does a lot of wrongful death, wrongful injury lawsuits. And, someone's text messaging on their phone or watching a video on their phone while driving. They drive into a family, they kill the family or members of the family, and a car as a weapon it's like a 5 or 10,000 pound weapon, whatever they are nowadays. I know the electronic cars are even heavier with their batteries, but you drive that into a T-bone with the family, T-bone another car, you're probably going to injure those people in that car more than yourself, since you're the ramming point there. And a lot of the people that he talks to are people that they've significantly changed the lives of other people, if not ended them, all over something stupid. Years ago with AT&T used to do a lot of sponsorship stuff with us. There was a film we went to that was made by, I think it's the famous director Herzog, that German dude. And he went out and he interviewed people who'd killed other people because they were texting and driving. And I mean, just stupid stuff. Like one couple was sitting next to each other in the car, texting each other instead of, you can just talk to each other right there. And they killed somebody. They ran someone down, and because they weren't paying attention to the road. And people don't realize distracted driving is a crime. Not only can you get ticketed for it, but you can kill other people and you can kill yourself, and you can destroy a lot of lives in one moment.
And once again, I go back to that statement that I made before. You do not get do-overs. You're stuck with the results for the entirety of your life. If that's you personally being hurt, there's a couple different ways you could lose the privilege, which is driving. Driving is not it's literally a privilege. It's not your right or anything like that. You have to get a driver's license and so forth. But you could literally lose your privilege for a couple of different ways. One, you can do something that's absolutely illegal, like drink and drive and get caught. And that getting caught for drinking and driving stays on your driving record for 75 years.
Yeah.
That's pretty serious. The other one is that you could get hurt a little bit and you're able to heal up from it like we were, and then I can go about driving again. The other one is I had a gentleman that he was one of my students, and his father was driving home from work one day, and a car came through an intersection and hit him head on, and he broke his neck, and he became a quadriplegic. I was selling life insurance at the time, and I got to go to his house because I wanted to talk to him on the phone. He wanted to make sure his wife had proper insurance on her car.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, can you come here because I'm handicapped? I said, no problem. So I went over after work, and his wife met me at the front door, went into the house and walked me into the bedroom, and there he was laying there in the bed.
Oh, wow.
And he could paddle, he had a little paddle in his teeth with which he could use to operate the phone.
Oh, no.
But that was it. His teenage children were his care mates.
Wow.
And just horrible, horrible, horrible thing to see.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, this is why you have to think about it. Now, one thing I try and do, and tell me if you talk about this in the book or in your teachings, is I try to be proactive when I'm approaching an intersection. Even though I have right away a green light to cross it, and the other two sides have red, I actually look both ways to see who's braking for the light, and if they're not, because they're on their phone or something. And I've just kind of learned that. I had a couple friends get T-boned going through a light. They had the right of way. This person they didn't stop at the light because they were looking at their phone or looking away or whatever the hell they were doing. That's one of the proactive things I do. And I'm also now, when I come to a stop before a car, I actually leave space, a significant amount of space between me and the car in front of me, or I try to, because I've been hit from behind by someone who was turning around playing with their baby or trying to feed the baby or whatever the hell was going on. But she basically had a baby in the back seat she turned around to on the freeway. And just hit me, gave me bad whiplash. Thankfully, it wasn't worse. But, you almost have to be proactive. And I've had, I think, at least 2 or 3 times where that distance of me allowing the person to have space in front of me, I've actually moved my car out of people that have been skidding because they're trying to keep from hitting me, move my car up a few feet, and that makes the difference. And thank God I had that space left. But it's crazy that you have to think that way, right?
Actually, it's being proactive is what it should be about. I mean, because if you're going to be reactive as a driver, you're a crash looking for a place to happen. And I agree with you 100%. Well, real quick question for you. When you see the cars stopped at the red lights or the stop signs, how do you know they're not coming out?
They're not coming out. What do you mean?
They're not pulling out in front of you. How do you know when they're stopped?
Because the brake lights are on? Or
that's what a lot of people would say that, but
I'm confused by the question.
Okay, and I used to ask my students this all the time. How do you know when a car is stopped? And look at the front wheel.
Oh, okay.
Don't look at anything else. Don't look at the driver. Don't look at the car. Look at the front wheel. Because the only way for that car to be fully stopped is for the wheel to be stopped. And when you're going through an intersection, it is one of the most dangerous places in the world.
It really is.
It's terrible. One of the things that I noticed in putting the book together was that people have a tendency to think that distractions are something that you're going to have to put up with. And what I always told my students when I had them in the driving school was that's not true. If it's not true. You do not have to put up with distractions in your car. If you got somebody in your car that wants to be distracting, then pull over to the road and ask them to kindly get out.
All right, honey. You being distracting. You keep talking while I'm driving, so I'm going to have to just dump you off here.
Did you ever hear of a term ride shotgun?
Yeah. Shotgun. I mean, it's you're the guy. I mean, if you're the driver, you got to have a shotgun to shoot the mob in Chicago or something. Is an old prohibition thing. I don't know. Right.
No. I'm not trying to.
One guy's driving, one guy's shooting. That's basically it.
Actually, the term came from the Old West.
Oh, okay.
When people used to ride around in stagecoaches, when stagecoaches started carrying a lot of people on horses would ride up and point a gun at the driver and tell him to stop, and then they'd do whatever they wanted, take all their money and so forth. The companies were losing money because people didn't want to do that. So what they did is they put an extra person up on the top of the stagecoach, and they armed him with a shotgun. The reason a shotgun is because a shotgun shoots shot. If you ever stared down the barrel of a shotgun, you don't want to see what's coming out because you're going to be hit by something.
Yeah.
So
you wanted to end there.
Now, when cars started coming into vogue, if you will, and people started thinking about this term ride shotgun, and they adopted it. They said that I'm going to sit in the front seat, I'm going to ride shotgun. Now, that went on for a long time, but it didn't take too long, too many generations, for the people that didn't know that it came from the Old West to forget about it. And now today, ride shotgun simply means to sit up in the front seat. And the reality is that if you're going to sit up in the front seat, you should be just as enamored by safe driving as I am. If I get hurt, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah, I mean it's a hell of a thing you gotta take and do. And, you just have to have eyes in the back of your head. You've got to advocate yourself. I even watch for people that might be looking at their phones. It seems inevitable nowadays that I'll be sitting at a light and the light will turn green, and no one will do that. Or no one will be moving forward. They're all just like, oh, they're playing with their phones. And you have to honk at them half the time and. Hey, wake up, man. The light's green. Let's go, buddy.
One other major topic that I carried in the book is something called using automobile insurance and using it properly. Most people are not familiar with what's on their policy. And in reality, they should, because they're paying enough money for it. But what I did is I broke down and I wrote a section called Insurance 101. Because I was involved with the industry for about 5 or 6 years. And so in dealing with the people who came in for automobile insurance, then I found that they didn't have a good idea what they were asking for. I had a guy come in one day, and I'll never forget, he was probably middle 50s, and he came in and he says, I want to reduce my car insurance rate. I said, okay. I said, then let's do this. Why don't you sit down? And what we'll do is we'll pull up your policy and see what you got. And so I can explain to you what you've got and why you've got. And if you want to decrease any of that after we've talked about what's there, and you'd make educated decisions, then he says, fine. So I told him, I said, I looked at his policy and I said, you have what's called liability, which is 10-20-10. And what that stands for is it's a shorthand for $10,000 per person, $20,000 per accident, and $10,000 for property damage. And I said, so I looked at it and I said, this clearly means that you don't have any assets. And he says, what do you mean? I said, you can't have any assets with this kind of coverage because what you're doing is you're driving around with, if somebody hits you, they're not going to be able to get anything from you because you don't have it. And he says, I have 2 complete apartment buildings.
Oh,
I said, are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
And so net result was, with a little bit of hemming and hawing back and forth, I wound up writing him 3 policies, one for a bigger one on his homeowners, one on his cars, and then something called a personal umbrella, which covers it. And the idea is that if you get into a crash, you don't want your assets to be the first thing that is taken away from. Sorry, Chris. So anyway, he walked out of the insurance office with a lot better coverage.
Nice.
And a lot better understanding. And I always tell everybody, if you go to talk with your insurance agent, make him or her explain to you what it is that they're giving you, because you're paying for it and you're going to be stuck with it, because when somebody hits you or you hit somebody, that's when it's going to come into play. And be advised that you can't buy flood insurance on your home when there's a hurricane coming.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with liability.
So let's see. Anything more we want to promote before we go?
Let me see just real quickly here. Before people get behind the wheel, they have to have an understanding of how dangerous it is. That's not to go out there and drive scared, but that is to go out there and drive, and without reckless abandon, but go out and drive so that you're driving safely. And once again, if I've taught them search, identify, predict, decide, execute, repeat, that's a tool that they can use to operate their vehicle and the people inside of it, so that they're prepared to drive safely and they're ready for most anything that can happen. But you can't do, there's one thing that I wanted to say right from the beginning. There's a difference between an accident and a crash. And obviously spelling is clearly one of them, but that's not what I mean. The difference between an accident and a crash, if you look up accident in the dictionary, it is described as something that happens with no apparent cause. The crash, on the other hand, is virtually everything else. So in terms of a car accident, I would say if you're driving down the road and an airplane lands on your car, that's an accident. There's nothing you can do about it. You couldn't have seen it coming. You're stuck with the results. Crash is everything else that happens. And crashes are preventable, because if you use the search, identify, predict, decide, execute, repeat in your daily driving around, then you should be prepared to not let the worst happen to you.
All right. Steve, it's been good and insightful, and I hope more people read your book. We should have it as standard operating procedure there at every training thing. So give us your .coms. Where can people find you on the interwebs and get to know you better or reach out to you?
stevedziadik.com. That'll go to my website, and from there they can order books. Also see the things that we put up for everybody to see, reviews and so forth, blogs and all of that.
All right. Sounds good then. Sounds good. Thank you very much for coming to the show, Steve. We really appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. I'm sorry I was
did great.
Getting tongue-tied there.
That happens every now and then on the show. So the title of the book is How's My Driving? Why Every Other Driver Doesn't Seem to Have a Clue. Learn from Steve. Learn from some of the examples he's had. If you ever want some really interesting, eye-opening, awakening stuff to never use your phone, go watch that Herzog movie from AT&T. I forget the title of it. I'm sure you can find it. Or go talk to a liability attorney who sues people over this stuff and hear the horror stories of some of the things he's seen and had to deal with. Boy, my friend, he's told some of the stories that he's done and litigated. And, I never would want to be in a position where I was responsible for the death of another person. Unless they're my enemy. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that, folks. That's a joke. I can dream, can't I? I'll just keep it in the dreams. Anyway, so yeah, it's really important that you learn about these things, because you have to be proactive. You almost have to be more vigilant on the road now with texting and phones than you did back when you and I grew up, where you didn't have to worry about that thing, and most people have nothing better to do in their car but drive. And now they're on videos, and I see these people too. One of the crazy things that my litigation attorney friends hate is they see these people that will be blogging and they'll be driving and they'll be talking to the phone on TikTok or some sort of thing. They're trying to educate people, and you're like, dude, that's distracted driving. That's illegal, and it can be murderous. So knock it off.
We got just a second or two more.
Sure, go ahead, throw it in there at the end.
You mentioned stopping a safe distance behind a car, and that's really important because you already noted that it helps you get out and maybe not be involved in a crash coming up from behind you.
Yeah.
But just as important, in fact, more important, is when you're driving along, there's something called proper following distance. People have a tendency to tailgate, and that's a crash looking for a place to happen.
Oh.
Our human reaction time is roughly 2 seconds, meaning that from the time that we see something happen until we take actual action, like pressing on the brake in a car, would take approximately 2 seconds. 5 miles an hour, that's not very far down the road. But at 70 miles an hour, you're going 103 feet per second. So that's two-thirds of a football field. And that is something that you can absolutely control as well. So when you're driving along, make sure you got plenty of following distance. And you know what? It's not going to get you there later. But it's going to get you there safer.
Oh yeah. I used to be one of those speed guys where I was always like, hurry, beat the lights and do speed. I was young. I had a few BMWs and I had a lot of tickets. A lot of tickets. And rightly, I was speeding. But, I finally just reached the point where, I think someone berated me one time and they said, you're speeding up to just stop at the next light. Like you're not doing what you think you're doing that's effective. And then I think about 10 years ago, I got some of the new plugs that you can put in your car. And what the plug does is it works with an app and it tells you if you're doing hard acceleration, hard braking. And I'm a real bad hard braker, where I brake pretty hard and usually high speeds. And what that does is, of course, it burns your brakes up faster, but also puts you in dangerous situations. But also the hard acceleration. I've seen people that I want to move over so I can turn left, but they're blocking the lane with their car. I'll turn on my signal, the signal I need to move. I try and either speed up or slow down, usually slow down to get them behind them. They speed up to block me because they don't want anybody to get ahead of them for that stoplight. They got to have the pole position, I guess. We're still racing cars, evidently, in our old age. And you'll see them just speed up and race, and then within 100 feet or 100 yards, they're stopping another light. So that's really wise, buddy. You broke the speed limit, endangered everyone on the road, just so that you could stop again at the next light. Boy, you're really moving there, buddy, aren't you? I mean, is there a prize to get to the next stoplight first? Is that how that works? So anyway, thank you very much, Steve, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much, Chris. I really appreciate you having me.
Thank you. And thanks, Jonas, for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, and all those crazy places on the internet. Order up his book wherever fine books are sold, or give it to that one friend who's always texting and driving. How's my driving? Why every other driver doesn't seem to have a clue. Thanks for being here. We'll see you guys next time.
You've been listening to the most amazing, intelligent podcast ever made to improve your brain and your life. Warning, consuming too much of the Chris Voss Show podcast can lead to people thinking you're smarter, younger, and irresistible sexy. Consume in regularly moderated amounts. Consult a doctor for any resulting brain bleed.
All right, Steve, we're out. Great show.